I've always wondered why people rode roller coasters, why the feeling of throwing up brought about some type of excitement. That's a quote from Tank of Tank and the Bangas and their song Roller Coasters. Today we're talking about Uranus. It is the planet that when in love scenarios, it brings that type of excitement and that feeling of like wanting to throw up, but I still want to ride this ride anyway. So we're going to talk about some Uranus love relationship scenarios and how to hack these Uranus placements, because they can be really challenging. They can kind of bring sort of a player energy. They can bring very flighty energy that doesn't necessarily want to stick around. So we can talk about how to better manage some of these scenarios. Hey homies, welcome to the Homegirl Astrology YouTube channel where we support Black folk in learning how to use astrology to help them live their best lives, especially with regard to career, relationships, love, and finance. Stay tuned for the video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and leave comments below. Thanks. Today we're talking about the planet Uranus and how it impacts us romantically. So we talked about Neptune a while back and how that meant deception, disillusionment. Uranus is a different sort of issue when it comes to love. So I'll give you the scoop today. We'll talk about how you can try to avoid getting your feelings hurt and getting played in these different scenarios. So let's start with the quick overview of the planet Uranus. Uranus signifies the urge to stand apart from the collective. It's all about independence, innovation, individualism, always deviating from the expected. It's about being alive, sudden, dramatic. Uranus is often associated with breaking down, breaking out, and in the case of relationships, breaking up. Uranus is here today, gone tomorrow. In some cases, it's here today, gone today. Uranus is flaky as F. Uranus people are super unique. They're very quirky, original, brilliant, completely unconventional, unforgettable really. And in a sea of sameness, they're the ones who stand out. Uranus is the breaker of chains. Uranus is the rebel who throws caution into the wind. It's electric, boogie, woogie, woogie. Had to. Its nature is explosive. Uranus is connected to accidents, shocks, all the things that are unpredictable. In mythology, Uranus is the sky god, and the sky god rules everything that comes out of the blue. In the natural world, Uranus corresponds to earthquakes and electrical storms. If you can think about that energy, and it's just so sudden and crazy and chaotic and confusing, now pair that with a love significator like Venus, or pair it with the planet that rules your 7th house in your chart, or just let it be the person that you're dating and they have a strong Uranus placement in their chart. This can lead to shakeups. Especially when we are holding Uranus relationships in stark contrast to what we expect a traditional relationship to look like. It's just going to be whatever the opposite is, basically. Uranus isn't really the planet that wants to hold hands and make plans and settle down, right? Because that would be too expected. Uranus says, ride or die, I'll see myself out. If you're dating someone who has Uranus making impactful aspects to their personal points in the chart, there's a good chance that there's someone who feels compelled to be on the move. It may be hard for them to settle down. There are other considerations in the chart that we'd want to look at that could, overcome this Uranus placement, but it's definitely something you want to keep in mind. Someone with strong Uranus stuff in their chart, they might stay at the house with you for a little while, but they're going to get over it pretty quick. They won't be happy. Uranus in love can mean sudden attractions, so it's more of a fling that might end before it starts. It could be a one-night stand situation. If you're a Uranian person or you're dating someone who is a Uranian type person, don't rush into marriage. Don't rush into moving in with this person. You need to see this person in many seasons. You need to see them for a minute before you make any major decisions with them. I joke about Uranus as kind of player energy because that also could be Neptune too. But Uranus person, they won't necessarily be deceptive in the same way that a Neptunian person could be, but they typically just won't stick around. Yeah, so in a relationship, we see sudden beginnings and endings that are unexpected and exciting, getting caught up with this new beautiful person who you've struck up a conversation with at the dog groomer. You know, Uranian people are fascinating. It's easy to get caught up and sucked into the whirlwind. You know, they give you those butterflies in your stomach, but if you think about it, butterflies don't stick around for long. They leave, they actually die, but all we know is they just have up and left our lives. They're meant to be enjoyed for the moment. And it's that feeling of being on a roller coaster that I mentioned earlier. Your heart skips a beat, right? It's nice to feel that sometimes, but you don't want your heart to skip a beat all the time because you'll die, right? Uranus energy in relationships can be very chaotic. It can be stressful for someone who is not also Uranian. Imagine you're a tree that's firmly rooted in the ground. This Uranian tornado comes through, rips you from the earth, twirls you around for a little while. And that's fun while you're twirling, but then they catapult you into the roof of a Walmart 3 cities over. And you're sitting there looking crazy in Walmart. You have to learn to live in the moment and lower your expectations when you're with a Uranian person because they're not going to give you that traditional romantic experience. So try not to plan too far ahead with this type of person because Uranus laughs at your plans. In terms of attachment styles, Uranus is, I would say it's similar to the avoidant attachment style or the runner archetype. This is a person who may have learned at some point in their life that love was chaotic, unsafe, or unpredictable. They might have felt abandoned or betrayed by a caretaker in their lives and have trust issues as a result. They likely have a very guarded heart, so that's why they keep love at a distance or they run when things get uncomfortable. These are the people that assume the worst. They may catastrophize. They don't deal well with conflict. They need their own alone time. They need their own space to relax in their own energy. And when they can't get that, they are out of there. But don't fear. I hope I haven't scared you all too much. Uranus relationships can work, but they're just not going to look traditional. One example, this could be a long distance relationship or a semi-long distance relationship. I've had an experience where I was working in one city and living in another, so I'll be traveling Monday through Thursday and then come home and see my partner on the weekends. That worked out well. We had time to miss each other, but then we're also excited to see each other once the weekend came. And then you have this passion that's like stored up because you haven't seen each other in a while, so it's time to just, reconnect. That could be an alternative. So if you're a Uranian person or you're dating someone who's Uranian, maybe that kind of like splitting up the time between two places could work. Polyamory could also be another Uranian situation because that's pretty non-traditional. Anything with unusual or unexpected dynamics could work for a Uranian relationship. So when you see couples that have different political preferences, like a super conservative wife and a super liberal husband married, or people of different racial backgrounds, that could also be a Uranian thing. You could be attracted to people who are weird looking or have different interests. That could be a Uranian relationship. But the main thing here is about maintaining your individuality as two separate entities in a relationship. So my parents both have Uranus in their 7th houses, and they've been married for over 45 years. They both have their own interests and friends, and they take care of each other as husband and wife. So it can be done. Is that what I want for myself? No. I'm too Neptunian. I need us to merge a little more. But the point here is to bring your fears into a reality check. Be honest in relationships. Keep it real. Communication is key when it comes to making something like this work. Set your expectations. And I say that with a grain of salt because, as I said, Uranus does the unexpected, so they may not necessarily want to stick to any rules that are being set, but you may have to set them in a way that doesn't feel like a rule. Healthy love doesn't have to feel boring. You can keep things exciting. There are people who do fun things together as couples. They're always on the go. Maybe it means you're traveling around together and you get the excitement from the environment and not necessarily from a new person, every week or every 6 months. I will add that you are not doomed to repeat these patterns forever. Any pattern that's in your chart, really, once you learn the lesson, you don't have to keep repeating it. Astrology is an event-based system. There are some famous folks who have Uranus love stuff in their charts. Khloe Kardashian is one. She has an exact quincunx between Venus and Uranus in her chart. Venus being the love planet, Uranus being this chaotic energy planet. And a quincunx relationship is when one planet ignores like the truth of the other planet and vice versa. So it's like burying your head in the sand even though you can see this person is unstable. Elizabeth Taylor had Venus and Uranus in an exact conjunction, so that means that they were right on top of each other, passing each other at the exact same time. So that's a pretty big deal when a conjunction happens, because there are 360 degrees in a chart, but for you to have your planets at the exact same degree out of 360, that's something. And we know that Elizabeth Taylor had several marriages. Like, she was definitely, you know, breaking some chains, breaking some marital contracts, or either her partners were, one or the other, right? Nick Cannon has Uranus squaring the ruler of his 7th house, and a square is a hard aspect, so there's definitely some kind of instability in relationships there. In a transit chart is the chart that shows how the current placements of the planets are bumping up against the planetary placements that were in your birth chart and how they're impacting you now. So when we see Uranus coming through, like passing in a love area in your chart or contacting your Venus or something like that, we could see a divorce in a chart or a breakup. In closing, you are not doomed to repeat this pattern forever. I've given you some tips for kind of how to manage some of these Uranus relationships. I've created playlists for each of these planetary combinations on Spotify, so I'll drop the link in the description box below. The Neptune Love playlist is already out there, so I will be dropping the Uranus Love playlist soon. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, give it a share, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. Let me know if any of this related to something that you've experienced. If there's any other content you'd like to see, please drop that in the comments as well. And finally, if you'd like to have a reading with me, please, please, please book a reading. There's a link in the description box, and you can just check us out at homegirlastrology.com. Please follow us on Instagram as well. Thanks so much, homies. Bye. Look, don't mind my hair, don't mind my pirate look, mind your business.